Everybody, I'm Mark Jensen. I'm founder of the GLUKOS company. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time to join us. This is our first Facebook chat for GLUKOS, and hopefully it's the first of many more that we'll do, but I'm very excited to be here on the BYU campus in Provo, Utah, in Coach Ed Eyestone's office, and so happy to be with Coach Ed Eyestone, who all of our running followers know is a former two-time Olympian himself, and also the head coach of the BYU men's and women's track and field. We don't want to leave out the field, people. And cross country. So thanks so much, Ed, for being here, and thanks for letting us use your office.
Good to be here. We found the one corner that isn't totally cluttered, so I like that.
Awesome.
And we even threw up a picture on the wall so we wouldn't have the blank wall
perfect.
behind us, but happy to have you here.
Yep, thank you.
You get so many awards and stuff, it just clutters.
I know.
I mean,
Where do you put it all?
Yeah,
Where do you put it all?
It's tough, but we have a garage out back.
But we've also got, if you didn't notice, the only guy with the mustache. What? We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about
Coaches will be back tomorrow.
Yeah. But also just very excited to have Jared Ward with us as well, who just came back, a week ago from the Rio Olympics, where he placed 6th in the men's marathon. And you're also, correct me if I'm wrong, the reigning U.S. national champion in the marathon.
From 15, yeah.
From
so
15,
if you kind of hop over these trials, then
Yeah.
Do the trials count?
I think they count as a U.S. championship.
Yeah, the trials count. So
gotcha.
it's from 2015. So
We'll still count. But thanks
I
so
appreciate
much.
that.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, Jared. And that was so fun to watch your race, and we appreciate all that you're doing. So,
Well, thanks, Mark.
yeah, thank you. So I thought maybe what we would do in this little conversation was first just talk a little bit about Rio and the experiences that Coach and Jared had at Rio, and then maybe talk a little bit about the race and how you prepped for the race, and maybe some things that happened during the race for both of you. And then maybe just a little bit about GLUKOS and how you've been using it in your training and your racing and all that good stuff. And then we'll see if we can pull up some questions from some of the audience and answer some of those.
Cool.
So, Coach, if you don't mind, I'd love to start with you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
So, I mean, you've been to 2 Olympics yourself. What was it like going back to Rio with Jared and, experiencing it as a coach?
Well, it was kind of a fun experience, and I've told this to a couple of people because I've kind of gone through Olympics in different ways and different roles. Had a great opportunity in 88, 92, 88 Seoul, Korea, 92 Barcelona, Spain, to go there as an athlete. And oftentimes as an athlete, you're there. Obviously, if you get there early enough, then you get to experience the opening ceremonies. That's a very fun but kind of exhausting process. The thing with the marathon, it's 2.5 weeks before your actual race. So both Olympics that I went, I did the opening ceremonies. I thought it was a fun thing. It was a very tiring thing. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to do it if I were competing in the next week, but kind of went through that, and then kind of got away from the Olympics a little bit and just kind of trained during the time. In Barcelona, we had a training base up in France, so we went up there and just trained for a time, and then came back prior to the Olympic marathon. And so in both cases, however, my Olympic experience was fairly limited because I was getting ready for the most important races of my life, and was just kind of hunkering down. Had the Olympic Village experience, which was nice, and being able to see all the athletes and feel the excitement and whatnot of all that. And I ventured out to a few events, and I had family members that would come, and I'd go do occasional things with them, but I wasn't really trying to tire myself out, so I kind of limited my exposure. In 2008, I had an opportunity with NBC to go back and do some broadcasting. That was a totally different experience because it was pretty much work related. It was great because I had an all-access pass, and NBC takes care of their broadcasters, and we were being shuttled back and forth in cars, and we could just zip through any lines and whatnot. But we spent a majority of our time right in the venue or prepping for races before. So again, even though we were there in the Olympics, Even though I had this great all-access pass, I didn't really see a lot of events other than the Bird's Nest. And I had great seats for track and field. Obviously, that was one of the best perks of the thing. But you were kind of also working there, so it wasn't, you weren't, you were just getting ready to do your job and trying to do the best you can there. So this one was a different experience because I was going there. I took my daughter along with me, who just graduated from PA school, and she was kind of my traveling companion. My wife stayed at home because my oldest daughter was getting ready and having her first child, my first grandchild.
Congrats.
So thank you. So my wife stayed home for that, and I don't blame her for that, and appreciate all the pictures right there from day one. But I was down, and so my daughter and I were able to go and actually experience the games like I've never experienced them before. I mean, I think when all was said and done, I think we went to about 15 different events, and of those, the guy on my left right here was able to come through and it was almost a daily or every other day sort of experience. Hey coach, I got tickets to team handball and synchronized diving. Yeah, that's what I want. So so then we would meet up, and in many cases Jared, and a couple of the cases it was fun because we were able to go with him, but then as we got closer to his race, we were seeing less of him, and that was great too. So he was able to hook us up with some tickets, and then we also did the thing where you just go and hold up 2 fingers and 3 fingers, and people come up and you try to haggle and get the best price on tickets as possible. And then we would usually do what I called the Eyestone upgrade, which was you walk forcefully down, looking at your ticket down to the second row to where a lot of these empty seats were, and then we experienced track and field.
Somebody feels sorry for you?
No, they just
recognize you.
No, they just assume that we know where we're going, and we paid the big bucks for the tickets on the second row, and we hated to see them. We knew they would be embarrassed if they were empty for television purposes, so we altruistically did the service of going down and sitting on the second row, and so we enjoyed track and field, basically right next to the track, and had some great days of track and field on, and it was very fun. So exhausting in that way, forcing ourselves into the subways and metros and buses along with all the masses, and so we really got to experience for the first time in my life the Olympic experience as anyone going down as a spectator, and that was very fun to do with my daughter, and just experience the people and the culture of Brazil. It was phenomenal. I thought they did a great job hosting. I don't know, I think at home the network sometimes portray the negative things, and you have those at any games. But in terms of from a fan aspect, we were just staying at an Airbnb that we had found fairly inexpensively, about $80 a night. It slept 3 people, and took the mass transit, and as long as you gave yourself an hour and a half to get to the events, it was fine. So we had a great experience.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you. Jared, what was it like for you going to your first Olympics?
Oh man, new experiences every day, and it felt very rapid fire, but fun. It was fun to be a part of something so big and get around, with Coach Eyestone and see some of the venues. And my parents came out there, got to spend a little bit of time with them, and then experience racing. I mean, that was what I was out there for about 3 weeks, and most of it before my race. Just like how Coach talked about, things in his experience when you go to the opening ceremonies and then stay till the last day to race, it felt like, I got out there and got into training mode. So the first half of the games was like I was at this training camp with all sorts of other these elite athletes that I wanted to go and watch these other sports and things, and it felt like a vacation. And then towards the end, transitioned to, okay, it's go time, it's race time, this is what we came for, and I really looked forward to that. I mean, for months I had thought about the race, and I went to bed the night before the race excited to wake up the next morning and go out and run what we had prepared to do and what we'd worked hard for, and it was a blast. I just like Coach was saying, that I think Rio de Janeiro did an incredible job putting it on. The people there are so nice. I hope to be able to go back to Rio someday, just because of how beautiful it was and how nice the people were. I mean, everyone treats you like you're their best friend. Bend over backwards for you, and it was very fun experience. Fun to come home and be back with my wife and kids too, and be back home. But certainly fun to be out there.
That's awesome. Well, you did a fantastic job.
Well, thanks.
So before, we've talked about how when Coach recruited you, he has this magical Olympic ring that he slipped on before he met with you. So I just have to ask, are you going to be getting one of those as well, or did you already get one?
Yeah, I was.
He's in the brotherhood now.
That was the first. They sent us out to Houston for processing a couple weeks before I flew out, and then then they turn us loose to go get all of our stuff. The stuff we wear in the village and the stuff we wear on the podium.
This is 2 weeks before you actually
go.
So
you go around and you go to the Oakleys place and you pick up your Oakleys for Team USA and all sorts of stuff. But OC Tanner for your ring sizing was on that list, and we got out of our first meeting and I marched straight over to OC Tanner and I got sized for my ring, and
nice.
They did a good job with the rings this
really?
year. I don't know when it's going to come in the mail, but I'm excited for it.
So is it like a Super Bowl ring, like the big stone in it? Could you upgrade with a diamond? Is it like the big gaudy thing, or is it something that you can wear every day?
I think it's like a small. It's like you take the Super Bowl ring and then mini me size it, right?
Okay.
And so it's not just like a like a band or a glorified band. It's like a rounded top.
Yeah.
I didn't upgrade any diamonds.
Could you do that?
Yeah, you can.
probably
You can get diamonds in it.
I'm sure you can do whatever you want, huh?
They'll take your money.
Yeah. Well, when you get that, we'll probably need to do another one of these, and you should bring yours.
We'll have a ring ceremony.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, that's pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about your preparation before the race. What did you do before the race, training-wise? Were you tapering down? I assume that you were. You've talked before, both of you have talked before about in going into a race, a lot of what you do is by feel, right? And also that one of your big goals was just to be super, super fit, be the most fit that you've ever been. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how you were feeling with the preparation going into the race?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think on paper and how I was feeling going in, we were blessed that I felt like I was in the best fitness of my life, and Coach felt the same way. And as we talked about race strategy and things, it was kind of a different picture than we had painted in the past. My wife and kids and I moved up to Park City in the middle of June and lived up there at altitude.
Is that specifically in preparation for this race?
Yeah, you want to get, the research says, 4 or 5 weeks up at altitude, and then that benefit lasts with you for, upwards of a month. Yeah. And so we were up there really until the day before I shipped out to Rio. Yeah. My wife dropped me off at the airport on our way home, back out of altitude training. And then I'd come down here and work out with Coach. And this one was unique in terms of comparing it to the trials and to LA the year before when I had run well, in that we were training in the middle of summer. And so these workouts and things that we were doing were in 70 and 80 and 85 degree heat, even in the mornings, as opposed to those winter workout sessions where we had 40 degree weather and 50 degree weather and perfect conditions. And we were hitting some of the same times or similar times to what I was hitting in those more perfect conditions. And so we felt great going in. Awesome. And I think we're excited about my fitness and how things looked going in. And then we did the standard taper that's worked in the past, where I just kind of follow what Coach had put down for me and how I feel, and we have conversations there. And I felt good going in.
If you don't mind me asking, what is your taper? When do you start tapering back, Coach?
Well, yeah.
I just listen. I just listen to what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, and if I had the sheet in front of me, I could tell you exactly what it is. But basically, I think it was 3 weeks out we did our last long run. It was that 25 miler. Then 2 weeks out it was 18 to 20. Then a week out we do.
Those are your longest.
Those are the long runs.
Yeah.
So in addition to the mileage kind of tapering as we drop down from 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out I think was one of our last high mileage week, wasn't it? And even 3 weeks out was just a little down from
90%.
Yeah. 95%. So if we were at 120 on our high, which is about, then maybe 3 weeks out we were 105 or something like that. And that's when we did our last, long run of 25 miles. Then we had our 18 miler 2 weeks out. The week out was about 10 to 12. We did that in Rio. You actually did your second to the last long run, 18 to 20 miler, was right there on not on the course itself, but right adjacent to the course, which I thought was good actually. And we had debated, okay, he's not going to be an Olympic tourist. This is not one of the things we're just going there and then we'll crawl home.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there's a need to experience the games to some extent, and I think that some Olympians, I think it's difficult to manage both, especially when you're competing the very final day. But I think if you're mature about it and that you can do them both, and I think in some sense it might even put more pressure on you if you don't do the opening ceremony, and at least experience some of that, because then you've made this sacrifice. And is it really a needful sacrifice, or is it just because you're unsure? So we had talked about it, and I encouraged him. I said, this is hopefully not it's a 3 times in a life experience, right? We're being optimistic.
We'll see.
Yeah, we take it one at a time. So I wanted him to have that experience, and felt like we could have our cake and eat it too, or whatever. And so as we talked about it, we really felt like, we can go there. We can still get, it would have been a mistake had we not done some of these core workouts before, but he did his last 25 miler before he left. He did then he did an 18 miler 2 weeks out, right there, fairly close to on the course, so he could kind of experience the same humidity and whatnot. Then a week out was I think a 12 miler, pretty much the same thing. And then the last week, you're just kind of one run a day rather than the doubles, and you're diminishing the mileage from Monday on down. Your last hard workouts have really been done the week before, and we got a quality kind of pace run in, I think, the week before, and then I think we did some 800 repeats the week before. That's kind of 2 weeks out. Did his last long run on the weekend, the 12 miler, and then the week of, you just kind of, I think we started about 10 miles and 10 or 9 miles, and then you just kind of dropping a mile per day as we went into it. We did a couple of, one thing I like to do the week before, about midweek, is go to the track and run some mile repeats right at race pace. And I think it just kind of ratchets you in and dials you in on the pace, so you get that one more time. It's a real confidence booster at that time, because if you do 3 times a mile at your race pace, it just feels so easy when you're doing it on the track, and you go, man, I can do 20. I can roll 26 of these together. No problem.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it is all about confidence, right? And going into the race feeling confident about your abilities. I just wanted to ask real quick. So, having run to yourself and then coaching him in this one, how similar or dissimilar were the workouts that you did in prep for your 2 Olympic Games compared to his?
We've changed. I think we benefited from the years of just
technology,
accumulated. Well, not even so much technology, because I could have been doing these same workouts without. We don't need to be strapped with a heart rate monitor or whatever. But I think just through years of experience and common sense, and what we see the marathoners doing now in 2016 as opposed to what they were doing in 1992. So some similar things. The long run's a long run, and you go out for 25 miles. But I think even the way that we kind of do those, with the way that he'll do, 3 to 5 mile pickup, down to race pace, or kind of differs from stuff that I did. And the one thing that is also different that we incorporate more so is some pace-specific work, where we'll kind of build up, 8-mile pace runs, 10-mile pace runs, 12-mile pace runs, as we kind of do the build up into it. So that's one aspect that I think I neglected. I would do long runs, slower than race pace. I would do hard and long tempo runs a little bit faster than race pace. And then I would do actually mile repeats at kind of 10K race pace or 5K race pace. And those were all good things, and we still do things similar to that, but I can never really do much race pace, which is kind of, looking back on it now, you kind of go, duh, why weren't you doing that? But that just wasn't done as frequently. At least I didn't do that much of it. And it's all about specificity, and the thing most specific to marathon pace running is to run at least some of your miles
Right.
at marathon race pace and get used to that, and then it doesn't feel like a foreign thing to you when you toe the line.
Yeah, awesome. So Jared, how about walking us through race day? You looked fantastic, and in fact,
thank you.
Yeah. So, and also our team, our GLUKOS team, we have Monday meetings, and the Monday after your race, we were all talking about your race, and many people were saying, "Boy, he looked so fresh. He looked, refreshed, And when he finished, and you had that interview on NBC, I mean, he didn't look tired at all. So, can you just walk us through real quick? What was it like the day of the race, and how were you feeling?
Sure. Well, the race morning started with a lot of rain. Actually, it was pouring out there, puddles everywhere. When we were walking over to the buses, we were having to jump big puddles or try to work our way around it, and rain was coming down hard. And forecast was calling for it to lighten up, but we just kept waiting for it. And I actually, on the bus ride with the AC on and how wet I was when I got off the bus cold, when I showed up to the start area.
Yeah.
And then, I had the chance to talk with Galen a little bit and with Meb a little bit, and was grateful that they were giving me, kind of what they think's going to happen, what to expect at the start, these kind of prep stuff from the experienced guys. And then the rain slowed down, right at the start, and it was kind of like a misty rain, and took off. And the pace really was, I think, built pretty well for me. It was a conservative pace for some of the, for a lot of us, but it wasn't real conservative for me. It was pretty close to the pace that Coach and I thought I was ready for in those conditions. And so, the break happened 25K in, and frankly, at 25K, I wasn't feeling awesome, and just kind of kept the rhythm, kept the pace going, and felt a little bit of a second wind coming into 30K that carried me through, 37K or so, where we were kind of working up one person at a time, and the pace was hard, and it was hot, and with the humidity, the radiator isn't working quite as well, right? But I did well with fluids, and so I feel like I was able to stay hydrated better, and I got all the nutrition that I needed throughout. I had the glucose energy in my bottles, and that's pretty much what I drank straight. A little bit of water in between where they were handing that out, and but when I got to the last 5K, I started to get excited. I think I was thinking, I really have. Coach and I had talked a lot about top 10, top 10, and we talked also about trying to be in position for a podium spot if the opportunity came. Right, we wanted to try to stay in contact as much was reasonable, and keep the door open there. But what we really thought was a reasonable goal was a top 10 finish, and I think with about 5K to go, I started realizing this could happen.
Yeah.
And so picking off the last couple people, and then realizing, hey, I'm in this top 10 spot that I wanted to be in, with a mile and a half to go. That was exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that having the right goal and having executed the right plan, that we were able to work out. Really put me in a position to be excited about that finish, and so I think that helped coming into the line and at least feeling a little bit.
When did you
more
feel
excited?
that? When did you and I'm sure you got some type of adrenaline rush,
Sure.
right? When you realized that, when was
Sure.
that?
I would say with about a mile and a half to go, I thought I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then on the home stretch with about 300 meters to go is when I kind of realized I did this.
Yeah.
And that was another shot of excitement.
Yeah.
And so coming across the line, I really felt like I had, we had executed the plan and had accomplished the goal that we had set out to do, and I was excited.
Yeah.
And so for the next couple hours and through media and things, I was still on adrenaline. I did feel the crash eventually, back on the bus on the way back to the village, and thinking, and then I'm thinking, I gotta get some food in me, and then if we're gonna do closing ceremonies, that's in like 2 hours, and so there was a little bit of a crash there, where I think it all kind of caught up to me, but there was certainly some adrenaline at the finish line.
That's fantastic.
Well, and he said top 10, but he is being a little modest with his goals, as we talked the night before, because I think we did say top 10, and that would certainly be. But then we also said, and I think this is significant because we know where he ultimately placed. We said top 10 is certainly within shot, but I think a top 6 is a stretch goal.
Wow.
I mean, and
Yeah.
we had said specifically top 6.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you'd agree with that. And so I
Wow.
think that was another sort of thing, because when we saw, this was actually a great marathon course to be a spectator. I'm sorry you guys didn't pony up the $1,000 to get down there, because once you got down there, it was awesome. We saw these guys because they did that 10K loop 3 times, and then we actually were able to see them in the first 5K before they hit the 10K loop. So, and then they did a 7K loop to finish. And so the way that we were as fans and coach and friends and family, we were able to actually see him at the 5K mark, run physically down to the 10K loop, see him 5 times during the 10K loop,
Yeah.
then get on a metro, take it down to about the 37K mark, see him run there, and then just go a few blocks, and as they did a little extra little thing around the Science Center, come back, we were able to see him, I think, at the 39K twice.
Wow.
And so all told, it was about 8-9 times that we were able to see him out on the course. And each time as we saw him, and he was in great position early on, I mean, he's just running in the pack and being smart, running the tangents, which I think is an
Yeah.
important thing that he did also. And then, when we jumped on the metro, that was just kind of when the break was taking place. So when we got back, and somebody had it on the phone, we were able to see what was happening up front. Saw that the break had taken place, but they were also showing the flags kind of tick by. And initially, I think it was like 17th place, and then 15th place, and then 13th place. I think when we saw him around 37K, I think he was in 11th place. But there were, as we call sometimes debris. There was debris up ahead. We're still running, but he was definitely moving well. To see him move in the top 10 position, we kind of went good. But I think all of us knew that stretch goal was really inside that top 6, and so he just kept moving through. The last time we saw him was with maybe 2 miles to go, I think. And at that point in time, I think he was in 9, but there was some people, between he and the finish line. And by the time we ran down, somebody saw on Twitter that he had finished top 6. And that's the sort of thing that kind of gives you chills, because we specifically say stretch goal top 6, and then boom, he nails it. It kind of made me think after the fact that maybe we set our goals a little too low.
but I think that when you have those, when we say top 10 is a goal, and then you start seeing that happen, that gets you excited, and it almost baits you to that next one too, right? And whereas if you say, well, the goal is top 6, the stretch goal is get on the podium or whatever, then you have to work a little harder to get that first reward step. And I think there's a craft to setting the right goals, right? And I think we were fortunate to hit it pretty close this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. You PR'd, right? 2:11:30, am I right? Was your time? So fantastic. That's just amazing. So
those were not easy conditions either. I mean, you saw people out there doing everything possible to keep their body core temperature down.
Yeah.
I think the race that he executed was ideal for those conditions.
Yeah.
We're excited to get him on a better weather day. He really has not had one since he's become an experienced marathoner between the trials in LA and now Rio. And I think now we would just love to get him in one of those 50-degree flat course, with fast pace, to kind of check that box as well. Because that 2:11:30, given the people that he beat and whatnot, is worth a couple minutes faster than that for sure.
Yeah.
And who knows how much faster.
It's amazing. That is amazing. Well done. Well done. So let's talk just briefly about the fuel that you were using, the GLUKOS. So we talked when you came back, and you told me that you were taking a water bottle with GLUKOS powder mix in it about every 5K. And then you had 2 gels. And then before you start, you had some GLUKOS chocolate energy bar. That's your favorite flavor bar, right?
Yep.
Brownie.
That's the one.
Yep. So let me ask you this question, and I'm sure there's some people that are watching that may have this question. So when you did the Olympic trials,
Uh-huh.
and it was hot and everything, we had a conversation afterwards, and you said, the GLUKOS was amazing, and that very well could have been the difference between me making the team and not making the team. Now, that's awesome. I love that, right? But there may be some people that are like, oh, come on, really? So, I mean, how does that really work, Jared? I mean, how does GLUKOS work for you?
So the main thing is that it settles with me. I had gone through, in the first couple marathons, experimenting with other products in my bottles, and I just couldn't find a drink that settled well. So I eventually settled on taking gels and drinking water, because that's what I could ingest. That's what my stomach could handle. And even then, sometimes I'd hit the end of the race and be throwing up, afterwards.
Yeah.
So some of it hadn't absorbed.
Yeah.
And so that's been the main difference for me, is I can put the powder in the bottles, and I can take something where I'm getting my hydration and I'm getting those sugar and those electrolytes at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that to me is the biggest thing. I'll still take an occasional gel. The liquid gels are nice, as opposed to a thicker one that you have to kind of choke down. But I think a big thing about Rio and the run there was, with it being so warm, relatively warm and humid, the game or a game out there is getting on as much water as you can and you can absorb.
Yeah.
So not over drinking to where you're sloshing around but getting on as much as you can. And when I can put in energy powder, the GLUKOS energy, and have it, diluted, probably half strength or 3/4 strength, then I can get that energy and I can just push as much as I can drink, and I'm getting GLUKOS with it.
Yeah.
And I feel that energy so quick. A nice thing about the GLUKOS product is how quick I feel it. I put just water in my last bottle, but taped a gel to it. So I took that bottle about 39K right before I was seeing Coach there for the last time, and I ripped off the gel and took a squeeze of the gel and then a little bit of water and just dumped the rest of the water on me to try to help cooling. But I can feel that energy so quick. Whereas if I was on the the other products that I had used in the past, I wouldn't really think to take a gel with 3K to go, because I wouldn't think I'm going to feel any benefit from this.
Right.
But I do from the GLUKOS. It just seems to hit me quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you took a GLUKOS gel 1 mile from the finish line, about
mile and a half, yeah.
Mile and a half, and you could actually feel that energy as it came into your bloodstream and give you the energy that you need to finish strong.
Take me down the straightaway.
It's awesome. We like it. And then protein bars. You're a fan of the protein bars at night, right?
Yes,
How do you do that?
So those are my late night snacks, right? And I feel like you get into marathon training and you're trying to stay light, but you're trying to get all the fuel that you need to recover. And so, I'll finish a run, have a snack, have dinner, and dinner's at 6, 7 o'clock. By the time 9, 10 o'clock rolls around and I'm climbing into bed, I feel so hungry. And it's one of those times where you can, if you just go and grab the graham crackers and the whatever, you can just eat so much more than you need. But the protein bar seems to be a nice satiating fix. So I can plan on that. I say I just go wait till 9 o'clock, then I have my snack, and it has a nice side effect of getting those amino acids in the bloodstream. So I'm sleeping on protein, and so I think my body benefits from healing a little bit more overnight. It's got more of that good stuff floating around, and it gives me the satiating snack that I need so that I can sleep. Without feeling like my stomach's eating itself.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad the products work for you. They work for everybody. That's why I made them. But let's do this. Let's take a couple questions. Coach, if you don't mind, can you hand me my laptop real quick? And I'm going to see if I can pull up.
Are those some of the questions right there on the right-hand side?
They are.
Is your eyesight good
My
enough to read that
eyes
up?
are not that
so you
good.
can see it off that?
No, but I may have to do that anyway. Sorry, I'm going to get up here. Let's see here.
Can you scroll through those?
Let's see here. This is fun. Sorry, I'm so close. So Barry's asking a question here about your mustache. And what was the deciding factor to keep the mustache?
Good question.
I think if I shaved it off now, no one would know who I am. That's one. But the second thing is why change what got you there, right? So I think it started back with in cross country we'd grow mustaches for nationals, and it's kind of a game in cross country, stashies for nashies. That's what they call it. And BYU being a team that's on average a little older than some of the other teams because we have return missionaries. We grow relatively good mustaches. Pioneered by Coach Eyestone, who had a great mustache during his running days
Back
and
in the day,
still grows a great mustache.
I grew one out for the Olympics. We had them for the Olympics. I shaved it that evening, but for the race itself, I had it, and it was there in its glory. A little more gray than it used to have, but yeah.
So no nostalgia for what Coach had done back in his running days, and a pattern of habit from BYU cross country. So.
And we've got a photo that you guys sent over, and it looked like everybody on your little your entourage all grew stashes. Is that right? Something like that.
Tell them the people that came that were.
So we had Ryan and Dan Jones out there. Ryan was on the team with me here, and Dan's always been supportive. Tim was out there with a mustache, and then we had Coach, and I think that was the mustache drill.
We had about four of us and him, so 5. My
Andrea,
daughter was there. She did not have a mustache. Thank goodness.
Next time, Andrea.
That's good. That's good. One more question for you. This is from Jared, and he wanted to know just about what product do you prefer? I know we already kind of talked about that a little bit, but how often do you use GLUKOS in your training?
Often. So I think one of the keys to any nutrition plan is using it in your training, right? So I want to know exactly what my stomach feels like at 5-minute pace in the middle of a hot run, and so I'm using the GLUKOS energy all the time in these long runs, and we're working on how much can I drink and have my stomach feel good and things like that. Do we want it cold? Do we want it room temperature? Whatever. And so I'm training with it during long runs especially. But then the energy bars serve as a nice pre-workout snack when I'm hungry. So if I'm coming down for a workout session and we're a half hour out or an hour out and I'm just feeling hungry, I can eat that and know it'll settle and I'll be able to run fine. And then the protein bars are nice to have on hand in case I finish a workout and it's going to be an hour before I'm getting to that lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever, as a perfect tide over and getting the good protein, that complete protein in me, get healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for taking your time today to be with us. Hopefully we'll get to do this again. I definitely want to see that ring, and I'd like to see yours too. So
it's got a couple.
The other thing I was going to say is I hope you ordered those rings big, because at 1:30 or whatever now, a day will come. I know it's impossible to believe that you will probably be heavier than that.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Because all I can say is that with 45 pounds heavier now. I mean, I'm 180, which is not morbidly obese, but I think the ring only fits on the pinky at this point in time. So we need to either get a new ring or get an expander or just wear a pinky ring now.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thanks again, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, all you GLUKOS viewers, and we'll talk to you soon.